All right, welcome back here on Live Impact News on the WCNC Charlotte app. All right, so let's talk about the North Carolina state budget. We talked about it at the top of the show, $34 billion. The House passed it. Update is Julie K. I'm reading from WREL right now. Catch us up. Give us the latest on this. The House passed the budget. It's still waiting on the Senate. They're debating it.
We need a final procedural vote for them, so it's kind of just like, the fine print kind of thing. But of course, they adjourned, or they went into recess right as they were supposed to do that. So pumping the brakes on saying it's officially passed right now, but most likely it's headed very soon to Governor Stein's desk. Big headlines, of course, significant raises for teachers and law enforcement. 8% average raise for teachers, 13% average raise for law enforcement, state law enforcement, of course. Other big headlines, cracking down on data centers. They got rid of some of those tax exemptions or tax breaks that some data centers got, because I know that's a problem a lot of communities are dealing with. That's why we send Walker Lawson all over the viewing area
all over the viewing
to cover
area.
all the moratoriums on data centers for things like this. There's some other, things in there that are the Dominique Moody Act that made it in, of course, that sets aside money to escalate some of these child welfare calls, some of these high-risk situations earlier on after that 6-year-old died in Charlotte. And, of course, what I'm kind of focusing on today, the I-77 repayment requirement. So those municipalities, including Charlotte, Mecklenburg County, Cornelius, some of the surrounding towns, will be required to pay back millions of dollars for voting against the I-77 South Toll Lane project, because it had been in the works for 10 years. NCDOT had spent $60 million so far on just the design and the planning process, and now they want that money back. And so kind of at the last second there, because we only knew about this potential amendment a couple weeks ago from Senator Vicky Sawyer, that did make it into the budget, meaning that there is some wiggle room. I mean, these municipalities have 90 days to reverse their decision. I'm not really sure what that would mean necessarily for the toll lane project itself, but they do have a chance to, kind of walk that back if they want to, like Monroe did, for example, in order to not be on the hook for that money. And
you had Monroe's mayor here in studio for Flashpoint. At Flashpoint. Sundays, 11 a.m.
That's our number one viewer right there.
Right here, Ben Thompson, Julie K, Ben Thompson. Biggest takeaway from that interview?
Monroe was in a really interesting position. I was there for their emergency meeting probably about 2 weeks ago.
Wait, has it been 2 weeks?
Maybe.
Yeah, it's been,
is moving both so slow and so fast.
Yeah, at the same time.
It was a recent meeting that they called before the most recent CRTPO meeting, where they were trying to bring this back up for debate, because there was a miscommunication within the local government in Monroe. Mayor Pro Tem is the one who is their representative. They have two weighted votes based on the size of the municipality. Charlotte, of course, has a big chunk, so it's Mecklenburg County. But their Monroe representative is supposed to represent Monroe's stance, and there's some debate over what happened there, but he says that their stance has always been that they support the project. Not necessarily supportive of toll lanes themselves, but something needs to be done. And he gave us some insight into the ramifications for if these municipalities can't pay back in time, if they don't decide to reverse their vote. The state will withhold millions of dollars in transportation funds. So when the big problem to begin with was roads, this could even make things worse for some of these surrounding areas. So I think that was just enlightening to hear about the impact and about some of the maybe internal drama that was going on behind the scenes. He does, though, seem to think that some other municipalities will follow suit. So that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, to your point, this conversation initially started of how do we make I-77 safer? How do we make it just better as far as traffic, more efficient? But it evolved into the integrity of communities, historically Black communities. And that's why Charlotte said, hey, we're going to pass on this. But he's talking from Monroe's perspective, in which they deal with different set of challenges and circumstances. So it's kind of one of those conversations. It seems like everyone's talking past each other on this.
Everyone has their own interests, both in terms of their communities and politically speaking. We can't ignore the fact that this is kind of a representation of how things are and a catalyst maybe for things to get worse between the state and local governments. Charlotte has a different relationship with the government, the General Assembly, than Monroe does, or than Cornelius
Right.
does. That's natural. But it was already quite strained, at least between Charlotte and the Republican General Assembly. And this is maybe a sign of that problem that already
Yeah.
existed, and a reason that it might get worse.
Julie, when can we, because we have some
lot
big
going on.
updates. So we have the we have the state budget, North Carolina state budget. We
Yes.
also have I-77, Monroe perspective.
Yep.
Again, Flashpoint, Sundays, 11 a.m., Ben Thompson, Julie K. What shows are you in?
I had to think about it first. 4 p.m. for the state budget, just
Okay.
an overview. And actually, James, I don't know if we have some of that sound.
Sure. Okay.
So James actually, just as a quick preview, he cut some bites from the House floor. And you'll hear a little bit more of this in my 4 p.m.
Okay.
With representatives, specifically Brandon Lofton from Mecklenburg County Democrat, talking about the budget itself, why he doesn't support it, and specifically referencing I-77.
We have that ready? Okay.
We do.
Let's take a listen in.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Mecklenburg, Representative Lofton, arise?
To debate the budget.
Gentleman is recognized to debate the motion.
Thank you. I wish I could support this budget. As a parent who has experienced both of my kids sitting in a classroom without a teacher, I know how urgent it is that we provide meaningful raises for our educators. As a community member concerned about public safety, I know how vital it is that we provide raises for court personnel and law enforcement. As someone who lives in a county that spent over $480 million last year covering costs that were supposed to be funded by this body, I know our local communities need relief. But this budget targets my home. It tells people living in Charlotte and communities across this state that they can be retroactively punished for voicing their opposition to projects like toll roads. This budget hurts the most vulnerable. It guts the program that has provided legal representation for low-income North Carolinians for decades. Decades. I cannot support that in good conscience. The people of North Carolina have been waiting for a budget for too long. In that time, they faced rising costs, uncertainty from our federal government, and lagging investments in our children. Our job is to meet the moment. Our job is to do so without targeting communities and without hurting the most vulnerable. Thank you.
For what purpose, the lady from Guilford, Representative.
And thank God we went to that soundbite, because while that was going on, the Senate passed the budget.
There
So
you go.
officially now it heads to Governor Stein's desk, years late, but some progress finally made.
And that is not an over exaggeration, by the way, folks.
Yeah.
Years late with the budget. All right, so Julie K, I'll let you get back on it because you have more digging to do on this. Again, both the House and Senate passed that budget. Now it heads to Governor Stein's desk. Julie K, thank you. A busy day. And what turned into just a completely busy day for Julie K.
I'm okay. It's all good stuff, exciting stuff.
All exciting stuff for Julie K. Julie K covering all things politics. Thank you for stopping by.